What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Locked On Pirates podcast today on Tuesday, November 2nd. I hope you all are having a phenomenal start to the month of November for yourself. I hope everything is going well. And guess what? We have the possible last game of the MLB season today as the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves will kick off game 6 tonight with the chance of the Braves again clinching after they were up 3-1. Can they close it out? Gordon Beckham will join us again, as he always does, here on the Insiders of the Locked On Podcast Network to give you everything that you need to know. Also, Ben Cherington has been pretty busy in his first two off seasons as the manager of the Pittsburgh Pirates, especially in the trade department. Does he make some moves in terms of trades that could really make a difference here for the Pittsburgh Pirates moving forward? And who could be those trade assets? Well, we're going to find that all out today. But before today's podcast gets started, I always love letting you guys know that I appreciate you so much for making me your first listen of the day. Even during the off season, you guys have been killing it with YouTube. You've been killing it with Spotify, Odyssey, all that good stuff. You can find me on Twitter right here at Locked On or at MVP_Ethan. You can follow the podcast at Locked On Pirates every single day. We're coming at you Monday through Friday. I'm officially 23 years old, so it's my Jordan year. But with that said, let's go ahead and get into today's awesome episode on Tuesday, November 2nd.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh, that beat never gets old, does it? That beat never, ever gets old. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to the Locked On Pirates podcast today, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Hope everybody's having a wonderful day. I am once again your host that does the most, Ethan Smith. Again, I hope you all had a phenomenal and safe Halloween weekend. I hope you're looking forward to a couple weeks of seeing all of your family for Thanksgiving. And I hope you're also looking forward to watching Game 6 of the World Series tonight. The Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros will be going at it for the sixth time. If you guys remember, and I posted it on Twitter earlier today, I predicted the Astros to win in 6 or 7. They cannot win in 6, but they do have to win game 6 to stay alive here in the race to win their first World Series since 2017, 2018. I believe it was 20. I can't remember which year it was. And then the Atlanta Braves, of course, are trying to clinch the World Series after being up 3-1, losing their first game at home of the entire postseason on Sunday night. So they're really looking for pretty much just a way to find out how can we be unlike every other Atlanta team. I mean, we've seen the Atlanta teams, we've seen all the Georgia teams, me being a UGA fan, we've seen the teams all do some crazy things to lose series and World Series. I mean, we saw the Falcons with 28-3, saw last year with the Falcons 26-10 and 28-7, I believe, against the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. You've seen the Atlanta Hawks have some of the best teams in basketball for years and get swept out by LeBron James. You've seen pretty much anything you can see in Atlanta sports and Georgia sports, you've seen it happen. And we'll see how the Braves come out tonight. I think they need to come out swinging, but before we get into all that, let's see what Gordon Beckham and our Locked On Insiders have to say about Game 5 heading into Game 6.
What's up, everybody? This is another Locked On MLB Insider Report with some instant reaction after Game 5 of the World Series here with Locked On MLB Insider Gordon Beckham. I'm Daniela Bruce. Gordon, let's get right into this. It was a game that definitely didn't lack action, and Houston went down 4-0 early in the game with a Braves grand slam in the first inning, and that had to be maybe deflating's not the right word, but it had to do something to their mentality right there at the beginning of the game. The crowd was so into it. What does that say about the mental toughness of Houston to be able to climb right back into this game?
Yeah, I mean, when you see what happened in the first, it was kind of like, wow. I mean, this series might be over right now. I mean, and then one thing I was thinking about when it was happening is the one thing it does do for the Houston offense is instead of playing scared, they had to come out and score runs. So it almost kind of flipped the switch in my mind with them. It's like, okay, we can't just try to skate by and get a couple hits and find a way to win a game. It's like, we're going to have to slug our way out of this. And you almost saw the mentality change like immediately, because they knew if they didn't go out and start swinging the bats and be aggressive, then they're not going to win this series. It's going to be over. And the World Series is going to the Atlanta Braves. So I kind of sense the switch on the mindset of the Houston batters. Like, we can't just play these nail biter games. We're going to have to go get this one and really have to score some runs. And they did. I mean, it was really good job by them not getting down, just continuing to stick with their plan and continue to just take it to the Braves. I thought their bats were a lot better today than they've been the whole series. I mean, their offense has been kind of quiet all series, and today it looked like they lit a fire. I mean, that grand slam kind of lit a fire under Houston, because if they come out and they're like, like they hit a grand slam, it's over. I mean, they're definitely not doing what they did. So I think that just the mentality changed for them. They went from basically sitting on the sidelines, like, how do we scrape a run or two, to, hey, we've got to go score a lot of runs. Let's get aggressive and let's do it. And they did.
And Dusty Baker making some changes to the lineup, which is bold in this scenario, an elimination game. How obviously it worked, right? So what did you see that actually helped Houston in this scenario?
Well, I mean, they moved Bregman down, and I hear you when you say it was bold, but at the same time, it's like they hadn't been really swinging the bats well. So, like, the only option is like, okay, are we going to just continue doing what we're doing? Definition of insanity. Everybody knows it, right? So that's why they switched it up. I think it was a good move, and you had Correa hitting third, and then Gurriel hitting fifth, which is kind of normal for Gurriel, but Correa moved up in the order. He had a good night. And then Bregman moved down to seventh. I mean, it was the lowest he's hit since 2017, I believe. So I think that what it showed is that Dusty's not afraid to make a decision that's going to help his ball club. And Bregman did well down there. I think obviously he's going to be grinding on his swing. I mean, he hasn't had as many swings this year as he has in years past. So he's trying to find it right now. And World Series is just tough to find because you're facing great pitching, and but he got through. He got a double today, and started to move in the right direction. Alvarez is the one that's just really struggling in this postseason. And for Houston to win this series, he needs to get hot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was just going to mention too, the Braves organist playing free fall in there at one point throughout the game. Didn't work. Probably shouldn't go back to that.
Yeah, they shouldn't. They went
to that chance.
That's right. It's the first time that Braves have lost a postseason game, here in Truist Park this postseason. So the organist has been known to do stuff like that. So it backfired.
You heard it here. I'm blaming the organist.
That's
All
right.
Okay, Carlos Correa, you mentioned he had a good night. Maldonado also showed up in this game, and he had been struggling offensively. Just how big are those individual performances we're in the World Series, right? But in elimination games like that.
Yeah, Correa's doing what he does, right? He's a really good athlete, and he's a great player, and he kind of showed up tonight in a big spot to give his team a lift. But the bigger impact is Maldonado, because Maldonado is not hitting. He's not known for his hitting. He's anything that he does is considered a bonus. What he does is defense is his calling. That's all he is really on the field for, is to really manage the staff and throw guys out behind the plate. So for him to do something offensively, it really shows that that's something they didn't expect. So for him to have 3 RBIs, amazing performance in a clutch game. He's beloved by his teammates. I mean, they talk about it a lot. So I think it was a huge lift, and it took some pressure off the guys that are generally supposed to be the guys driving in all the runs. I mean, without Maldonado tonight, it's a 1-run game, and you've seen what the Braves have done in close games.
So game 6 will take place on Tuesday in Houston. Tomorrow will be a travel day. Tomorrow, Monday, will be a travel day. So an off day. Who does that benefit, Gordon?
I don't think it necessarily benefits anybody at this point. I mean, I know nobody really wants to take off days at this point. I mean, this is
where I want to pause, guys, real quick with this, is I want to pause about the off day thing. Now, I agree with Gordon 100% about the off day. The off day, I don't think it really benefits anyone. But I mean, it's just a kind of thing where you don't want the teams running from Atlanta to Houston and then having to play a game on Monday night last night. Now, for intention purposes, it could kill the Astros' momentum because they finally get a win again in the series. It's 3-2. I am fully convinced that if they did play a game yesterday, if they played game 6 yesterday, the Astros would have won. Will the Astros still win today? That's a big question to ask just because of the idea that they did have to take the off day. It gives Dusty Baker and Snedeker more time to look over things, more time to figure out what they want to do in game 6 because realistically, as Gary said, and I agreed with him yesterday, I think the winner of this game tonight wins the series. That's just where I think it's going to be because the Astros, if they win tonight, they steal all the momentum away from the Atlanta Braves going into 3. It would be a game 7 in Houston. I don't think Houston would lose game 7 at home. And of course, if the Braves win tonight, then the series is done. But before we continue with Mr. Gordon Beckham and Daniela Bruce, let's go ahead and let you know that today's episode is, of course, brought to you by BetOnline.ag. BetOnline, of course, is back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron as teams are back for another football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all of the pro and college football action this season, as well as basketball, baseball, and hockey. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to the website or use your mobile device today to sign up for and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit, meaning that if you put $100, which is usually one unit in the betting world, they will give you $50 of free money, which is half a unit to go and bet on anything that you would like to bet on. Don't forget to use the promo code at the bottom of the screen, locked on, to receive that bonus from football, baseball, basketball, boxing, hockey, and everything that you can think of in the sports world, even right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the best and fastest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. And the reason I wanted to stop, by the way, right there with Gordon and Daniela as well is because the off day, we talked about it yesterday, me and Gary did. And realistically, it's just kind of odd to see the World Series going into the month of November. Of course, if the Astros win tonight, the season will end on November 3rd and of course, with recent news thinking there could be a work stoppage on December 2nd. That means that teams have literally less than a month to do anything like before that happens. And I mean, for the Astros or the Braves in that sense, you're also setting up a World Series parade. You're setting up celebrating the World Series. So that could even give them less time as well. Of course, I know those front offices have to be working as, as things go on. But realistically here, the game 6 is going to be interesting, and they're going to get into it again a little bit here about some other things. But I really think, as I said yesterday, or as I said last week, if the Braves can continue to get out to a hot start, especially in Houston, I mean, they hit a grand slam in game 5 to start the game, and Houston came back and was one of the first teams in a long time to come back from 2 separate deficits. But realistically, I think if the Braves continue to do that, at some point, it's just going to become too consistent for the Astros. Now, on the other hand, the Astros start doing it, it gives their pitchers a lot less leeway. And the Braves have been hitting the baseball really well in this series. But realistically, you have to look at it from a standpoint of which team is going to make both teams are going to throw punches. It's like a boxing match. As I mentioned, boxing in the betonline.ag ad where you can go bet on boxing and UFC all the time. Any boxing match, they throw the punches, they throw light punches, everything happens, right? And then eventually one of the fighters, like I saw in the Wilder Fury fight, throws a huge punch. And that was Deontay Wilder getting hit by Tyson Fury in their last fight. But what did Deontay Wilder do? He did a lot of what the Astros did in game 5 and said, okay, I'm going to knock you down too. Now, ultimately, he didn't win, but who throws that big punch here in game 6 that is really going to change the entire integrity of what's going to happen in this game? And could the Astros throw a big enough punch to say, we're going to win game 6 and game 7 and you're going to blow a 3-1 lead? That is like what is very huge here. And it would be the second straight postseason blown 3-1 lead by the Atlanta Braves. But before we get into the rest of the World Series, let me go ahead and let Gordon and Daniela take back over.
We're two games away from deciding the champion, the World Series champion, and I don't think either team. I think they'd rather go to Houston tonight and play tomorrow. I mean, that's honestly how I feel. But it's the World Series; you get an off day. I think that it's probably good for the Braves because Houston's offense got kind of hot tonight. Give them a day off. Maybe there's a little bit of rust coming off that day off on Tuesday, but it's definitely not good for Houston because they got rolling. And now all of a sudden they got to sit at home tomorrow and just work out or whatever at the field. So I would say it benefits the Braves because they've shown that they can come back after a loss and have a good, a big game. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, Houston's been really tough at home throughout the regular season and the postseason. So we'll see what happens. But it's anybody's ball game moving forward.
If it was Houston's choice, they'd probably want to fly back and play the game right now in just a few hours.
That's right. Yeah.
I can understand not wanting that off day. But so pitching matchup, what do you think we're going to see for Game 6?
Well, you're going to get Max Fried for the Braves. I mean, he's been their ace all year. He really didn't pitch well the last time he was out there, but he did give his team 5 innings of good baseball to basically save the bullpen. So he's going to be rested and ready to go. I would expect that he would do better than he did the last time. And then you're probably going to get Luis Garcia. I don't know if you're watching the game afterwards, you watching at home, but Dusty Baker said that they were thinking about going Urquidy, but since he went into the game, they're going to go for Garcia, it looks like, on short rest, 3 days rest. Young pitcher. He can probably bounce back better than most, but he is a young pitcher, and it'll be kind of uncharted waters for him. So interesting matchup to see. I mean, the Braves would have the edge in terms of the starting pitching, but this is anybody's game. I mean, and Houston's playing at home, and I'm sure Minute Maid Park is going to be, really, really loud on come Tuesday.
So, like you said, anybody's game. This series has been very hard to predict, at least for me. I can't seem to get a grasp on it. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But do you have any predictions for these last 2 games? How do you think this series is going to end?
I kind of thought it was going to end tonight. I mean, it just seemed like the Braves had all the momentum in the world, and they hit that grand slam, and it's like, okay, this is their year. And then the Houston does what they do. They hit. They threw well. I mean, the bullpen was lights out when they came in, so pitched a lot tonight. And I still think that the Braves are just a team they're a team of destiny. I don't know. It's just they've been playing really well. They find a way to bounce back. I just get the sense that they're going to win. I don't know if it's going to be Game 6 or Game 7, but I just can't see them losing 3 in a row.
All right, everybody. Well, we will have more on this series coming later this week as the teams travel back to Houston to decide on a champion. And for everything you need to know leading up to that, make sure you follow both teams, Locked On Astros and Locked On Braves. For Locked On MLB Insider Reports, this has been Gordon Beckham and Daniela Bruce. Locked On, your team every day.
And that realistically sums up a lot of stuff pretty well. I mean, realistically, Max Fried has been the best pitcher for the Braves pretty much outside of Charlie Morton. Of course, I think if Charlie Morton was in the series, despite that massive injury, he would really just he'd be on it right now. Like, he would be in Game 6, I think, tonight, depending on where they used him elsewhere. Because I think they probably would have used him in Game 1 and Game 4 like they used him in Game 1. I think they would have used him in Game 4. And I really think it would have made a major difference to have him here. But I am predicting that the Astros win tonight and win the series. As I predicted before, I said I think they win in 6 or 7 games. I think they follow up with that. I think they open up tonight's game very, very, very hot. And I also think that they just handle business. They make it work. And we'll see what happens. The game kicks off around 8 o'clock tonight. Also, they're not going to be fighting with football, really. I know the MAC is on tonight on Tuesday, but realistically, all eyes are going to be on Major League Baseball. I mean, I know there's like NBA basketball going on too, but all eyes are on these 2 games for the most part, and that's what I'm looking forward to. But now getting into some Pirates things, Ben Cherington last offseason, some people gave it a lot of heat. Of course, most of the people that did give it heat weren't really paying attention to what was going on, but Josh Bell, Jamison Tyone, and Joe Musgrove all out the door. So he wasn't done after that. The Pirates, of course, started the season pretty okay. They were 12-11 at one point, and then he pretty much sat there and said, "Hey, you know, Adam Frazier had some trade value. He picks up Tucupita Marcano and another prospect from the Padres again. So their second trade with the Padres in less than a year. He also trades Clay Holmes for Michael Chavis, or to the Yankees for Hoy Park. He also trades some other guys and ends up getting some Michael Chavis. Now, the Pirates, of course, have a top 10 farm system on paper as of right now. They are waiting on a lot of these guys, of course, because you have guys like Liover Peguero, Nick Gonzalez, Quinn Priester, Carmen Majinski, Jared Jones, all in the lower levels of the system. But does Cherington make trades again this offseason? Um, it really just depends on what happens. I think if there is a universal DH in the CBA negotiations, I think Colin Moran has a better chance to stay. I do think Colin Moran could be a trade option heading into this upcoming season because you do have some guys that can move over to first base, like a Yoshi Tsutsugo, who they've already expressed interest in re-signing. Michael Chavis has played the position before. You've had some guys as well that have played the position around the diamond in the minor leagues that could be looking up to come up, like a Michael Escato, like a Diego Castillo. Those guys could also come up and maybe shift over there as well. So it's really just going to be depending on what the Pirates want to do. I would throw Colin Moran's name around. I don't think any of the guys that I'm going to say, by the way, that could be traded are not going to be guys that are going to bring you like a top 15 prospect back. It's going to be guys that are going to bring you maybe like a 20 to 25 range kind of guys back and, make your team younger. And Colin Moran, I love him. He's a great power bat, but health has been an issue lately. I don't want to see him get traded. I'd like to see him stay at first base until I believe Mason Martin is ready. But it depends on also what Yoshi Tsutsugo is ready to do. And if Yoshi Tsutsugo can play better defensively at first base, even with the universal DH, he could play over there as well. Chris Stratton's another name I think you could throw out there, as well as Chasean Shreve. Both of those guys, veteran relief pitching. And as you've seen this postseason, relief pitching is very important to a team's success. And I think that the Pirates could once again trade those guys off and just make the bullpen younger again. Would I like to see them keep them through the season and then trade them trade them once things maybe get a little out of hand in 2022? Yes, that's what I would like to see. But Cherington has obviously made an emphasis on saying, I'm not going to be not aggressive. He's been pretty aggressive in bringing in some pretty big top talent, on top of the fact that the Pirates also have the number 4 or 5. They have another top 5 draft pick heading into this off season that they can think about. And that's also not necessarily saying too with the Pirates that they need some starting pitching. They need some veteran starting pitching. They need a backup catcher, even though I think sadly Michael Perez will probably get arbitration and stay in that role, even though I think they do need to build up on it. But realistically, I mean, right field is a need, possibly, depending on how you view Kanan Smith and Jigba and Cal Mitchell and Travis Swaggerty and if they can come up. Because Ben Gamel, another guy that Ben Gamel you could also look into trading if you really wanted to, but I think keeping him around would be indicative of building a very solid team in 2022. You have Gamel and Reynolds already, and then every other position is just going to basically fall in place at that point. Relief pitching, starting pitching, backup catcher, and right field are kind of your big needs. I mean, Key Brian Hayes, he didn't have the year at the bat that you wanted to see. He didn't have the year health-wise that you wanted to see, but he had a good year. At shortstop and second, you have a good mixture of talent that you can throw over there. Michael Chavis, Kevin Newman, O'Neill Cruz whenever he's ready, Tucupita Marcano, Diego Castillo. You have a lot of guys that could go over there. Michael Escato. Pitching wise, I mean, right now as it would stand, I don't think Roendi Contreras is going to start the year in Pittsburgh, but he will probably be in Pittsburgh by midway season mark. But you have Bryce Wilson, Mitch Keller, Miguel Yajure, Chase DeYoung, Max Kranick, who made a big step this year. And then I mean, just get some veterans in here. And one thing that I say too is Cherington can make trades for these veterans if he really wants to. He can bring in these guys through trades. I mean, I'm not saying get rid of prospects because that's not how he's going to do it. But maybe you go talk to whoever, like say a top team that wants to contend in 2022, and you say, hey, we'll give you Chris Stratton if you give us this position player, like a right fielder. And I would like to see that. And I don't know if Cherington is going to pull stuff off like that. I think he may, like this offseason, you're going to see a trade or two, I think. It would be kind of weird for Ben Cherington not to make a trade per se. But realistically, for me, I think he's going to focus more on free agency. Of course, the only player that they're going to have to re-sign and not do arbitration on realistically is Yoshi Tsutsugo. Almost every other player is ARB eligible, so you're going to see a bunch of arbitration news come out probably in the coming weeks about what the Pirates are going to do there. Trades, I mean, again, if Ben Cherington decides he wants to make them, he's going to make them. If he gets his asking price, he gets his asking price. That's really all you have to look for here. But of course, we're going to be following all of that anyway here at the Locked On Pirates podcast with Ben Cherington and everything the Pirates do this offseason. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, Odyssey, Google Play, Apple Podcast, and of course, YouTube if you want to see my beautiful face every single day, Monday through Friday, until we move to the off season where we will be back to 3 days a week. But you can also follow me on Twitter at MVP_Ethan, where I talk about all things Pittsburgh sports, the Los Angeles Clippers, and the Georgia Bulldogs every single day on Twitter. Thank you guys so much. Make sure you go follow Locked On Pirates on Twitter as well, at Locked On Pirates, where I have a little poll going right now about what you guys think is going to happen tonight in Game 6 of the World Series. But until tomorrow on November 3rd, maybe I'll be talking about the Braves winning the World Series, or maybe I'll be previewing a major Game 7 between the Houston Astros and the Atlanta Braves. But until then, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode on Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you for making Locked On Pirates your first listen of the day on the Locked On Podcast Network. I am your host, Ethan Smith, who does the most, and I will see you next time on the flip side.